So, Peter,
Yeah,
welcome to Galaga. Now, you had never played this game before, right?
I've never played this game before today. No, never.
So, yeah, so the amazing thing about this game when it first came out was number one, the star field was a
Yeah,
huge deal. Then the number of enemies, the number of colors, and the fact that they're moving around at those angles.
yeah,
Because you have to think each one of those angles is a different sprite that you have to store, and that's just a massive amount of memory that
hmm
the games didn't have before this. I mean, the I believe the game data comes out to something like 95K or something,
really,
which for ROM chips at the time was just
pretty
huge.
large.
Yeah. So this you can really see how the technology is developing at a breakneck speed. Because
Yeah,
just a couple of years earlier, Space Invaders was as good as it was going to get. And
oh,
just look at the number of sprites per line here. That because
yep.
most of the hardware is using sprites, and they're counting the sprites per line. So if you can put all these guys on one line, especially when they fly through,
hmm
that's impressive hardware right there. And then the patterns like this where it opens and closes,
hmm
it's yeah. So how what was your perception going into this?
Um, honestly, I was totally overwhelmed, with all those things flying around and shooting at me, and also I have this. Again, those old games, they are so pixel perfect. There's really no. I mean, it's either you hit or you don't hit. There's no, okay, you actually didn't hit, but the game makes it easy for you, so you hit. No. I mean, I even managed to shoot in between those guys. Did you see this? Just right now, this
Mm,
was the best example. I mean, I shot through them guys.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
Lord.
You either got it right or you didn't get it right.
Exactly.
It's yeah. There's no participation prize here.
Could
You
they
can't
actually have
pansies.
done it in such a way that you got it right, although you actually didn't?
Oh
I mean, you
yeah,
would have to make the characters bigger and have them, well,
not
transparent
necessarily.
around.
Now, what's happening in the background of this is that you're not actually touching the pixels of these guys.
hmm
What you're doing is you're touching the hitboxes.
Yeah,
So the question is, how big or how small did you make the hitbox?
yeah. Well, this is what
And
I. Yeah.
yeah, so they could have just made the hitbox, it left the sprite the same size, but calculated a larger hitbox.
Mm,
But I mean, obviously, if you calculate a larger hitbox, what ends up happening is that you stop feeling the
mm.
success of hitting the thing. Where you're kind of like, well, even if I don't hit exactly, then you're not going to be trying to. Now, oh, okay, see, the guy who just sort of left hit those radars out,
Yeah.
you can let yourself be captured.
Oh, really?
Then you lose a life,
hmm
uh, and you start with your next life. But then if I can't remember what you have to do, but if you shoot down a specific enemy or a certain number of enemies, that captured ship will come back to you and dock on, and then you'll have two shots, and you'll
Oh,
be double wide. So, and that's it's another element to the game that was added that really
okay.
does
That's
just
pretty neat.
adds this whole strategy thing of, well, I have one life less, but if I do manage to get this, then I get the double shot.
Yeah,
So there's a strategic element that comes in through that.
yeah. But if you're larger, is your hitbox also larger, or is it like the other ship dies and then you die, like
I
two
honestly
players?
can't remember. I'd have to check that again. I think it is just the fact that you can lose that extra ship,
hmm
but it doesn't mean that you die. Period.
hmm
So, but don't quote me on that. I'd actually have to play it again and find out. It's been too long since I played
Mm,
Galaga.
okay.
I mean, it's probably been 10, 12 years since I played around at Galaga. So,
And also, can we like take a moment and be excited about my evasive maneuvers?
and your evasive maneuvers are quite evasive. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when they're doing the little loop-de-loop at the bottom and you keep, It's like you just don't quite have the balls to go in and try to time it so you can get him before he comes around again.
Yeah,
It is quite
I'm scared,
impressive.
man.
Yeah, well, and rightfully so. I mean, you are kind of outnumbered here,
A little bit.
and yeah,
Oh
there
Lord.
you go.
So, but those are actually insects, aren't it? Butterflies, bees.
Yeah,
Now that I have a
exactly.
closer look at it, maybe a bat or something. Was
No,
it
they're moths, I think.
moth?
Yeah.
So why are they insects?
Um, Probably because it's a Japanese game, and if you look at things like Mothra, the giant moth from the Godzilla movies that was
Okay,
supposed to be
because
an
it makes
alien
sense.
moth, it's the idea of giant insects attacking is not uncommon in Japanese sci-fi culture
Okay.
or in Western sci-fi culture. Plus, you have to put it in space because if you also had to draw a real world background, you
Yeah,
totally push the hardware too far.
of course.
Yeah.
So, how were the stars in the background calculated? Beginning the game, you mentioned them as something astonishing for the time.
Well, because they're flickering, they're multicolored, and and of course, see now, for example, you stopped, so the
Mhm.
stars also stopped. It's not like they're just this continuous thing, and the blinking of
Yeah,
the stars also gave it by speeding up the stars. Remember, Space Invaders, you're defending a planet was the
yeah,
concept, and that worked because you couldn't move the screen. When you really look at this, if you took away the star field, this could be just Space Invaders
yeah,
because your ship is always in the same position. But you'll
of
notice
course.
that at sometimes the stars move faster than at other times.
Mhm.
And they're giving you this real sense that you're traveling through space as opposed to
Mhm.
just being static in one position. Now there may have been a few games that did that before this, but none of them also combined the movement of the enemies like this in the animation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
and also in the game, on the left side is the number of ships and lives I still have. What's on the right side?
those
This
little
little medal.
medals.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they represented anymore.
Hmm.
That is a good question. I would have to look that up. I honestly cannot remember what they represent any longer.
Fair enough.
Um, yeah, I was just wondering that myself for a second. I was like, what were those again? And that's the end of your 7 minutes. So
Sad. We'll never find out what
overall,
those were.
I mean, come on, there's Wikipedia entries on this game. That's not a problem. But I understand what you're saying. I have no idea. I'd have to look it up again. Just no clue. So, would you recommend this game to other players?
Well, I think really if you want to have a like 15-20 minute session, just switch off your brain and do some shooting, it's really good. It's just nothing I'd pay $60 for.
This is true. I mean, especially nowadays,
Well,
probably not something that you want to pay for. No.
yeah,
Uh,
maybe in a remastered version.
well, there will be several of them. There's Galaga 88, and there's been a ton of other breakdowns since then. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
And I'm looking here. According to the Wikipedia, the hitbox does increase when you have the dual fighters. So I don't believe that
Oh,
one fighter it gets destroyed. It's just basically increases the hitbox and the firing rate.
hmm,
And those little things, I
right.
don't see us. I'd have to read through this here. Should additional lives remain, the player has an opportunity to shoot down the boss Galaga or the captured ship. Okay. Yeah, I have no other information on it right now. So, if anybody on Patreon is seeing this and you're still tuned in after we just kind of about lost here and me reading a Wikipedia entry, let us know. Send us a message. We would like to find out. Okay, back to the show.